Darren Cox is our guest in the studio, talking about gaming and esports. What are you up to now then? What's the project that's bubbling under? Can you tell us anything?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I'm here in Dry in this amazing facility at Daytona. The last time
is this your first time here in the new building?
Yeah. And people talk about people not attending race meetings and no investment in racing and everything else, but this is an amazing facility. It's fair play to the NASCAR organisation, the France family, for investing in this. This is 21st century racing stadium for everybody, for the fans, for the media, for the corporate guests. It is, I think, the best in the world.
We were very, very honoured to be the first people to broadcast from this broadcast suite when it first opened. It was the Rolex 24. And we had the honour of doing the first live broadcast. And we'd seen it go up and how it was all put together around the old bleachers and the old grandstands here, and how it was built in a modular way. The amount of steel that was used here, the fact that from one end to the other actually aren't parallel because they've got to take into account the curvature of the earth because it's so long. I mean, it's just fantastic stuff. I think it was Joy Chitwood who told me when we were doing the piece on opening this, it's something like 2% of the American steel production in that particular time came to this facility to build it. It's an extraordinary thing to have done, and an extraordinary investment in the sport.
Yes, that was exactly my point. It's great, but pare it all back, and it is an amazing investment in the future of the sport, which is what we're talking about, I guess, in terms of gaming. So I wasn't avoiding your question about what's bubbling under. We've got loads of stuff happening. We're here. Of course, it's nice to meet old friends and to spend some time watching cars going round. But we're here on business. There's lots of people interested in esports, so we're meeting lots of people. Obviously, we are involved. It's our project, the World's Fastest Gamer, which was massively successful, and we're rebooting that with new partners going forward. We've been involved in F1 esports on the team side. We basically manage the Mercedes F1 esports team, which won the championship, and the drivers. So yeah, every bit, whether it be sort of rights holder side or team or organisational consultancy, that's what we're working in. And part of our group, the Millennial Esports group, we've even got a gaming studio. So I'm here with the head of Eden Games, and we talk about some old games that we all played back in the day. These guys were responsible for V-Rally and Test Drive Unlimited. So we've got the CEO and founder of that, Dave Nadal, here with us, talking about the new games that they're making, which mainly are on mobile, by the way. Because that's, again, another massive growth industry. Those guys do the F1 mobile game, which again has been launched recently, is massively successful. And it's brilliant talking to people that you wouldn't expect to be into this esports stuff. Because 10 years ago, of course, 12 years ago, everyone thought this is a ridiculous idea to take a gamer and put him in a race car. I think we proved that wasn't such a ridiculous idea. But
I never thought that. For the record, I never thought that, and we were on board right from the start.
You absolutely were. That's why we're still standing here together. But of course, everyone talks about Lando Norris and this generation of guys, and we're here with Devlin DiFrancesco, who's in the Cadillac, currently in 6th place. And again, that age group of guys, he's the youngest guy driving a DPI at 18. Of course they're gamers, of course they're racing on simulators. But then you go and have a meeting with Rubens Barrichello, who is older than me, and he's still gaming. He said he got told off by his wife before he came out here because he was on practicing on iRacing for 6 hours. Yeah. So this isn't a 16-year-old kid being told off by his mum. This is an ex-Formula 1 driver being told off by his wife for playing on iRacing. So it is huge throughout the paddock. I think there's less and less people that don't think it's a good idea. Of course, not everyone wants to engage in it, and I completely get that. But I think most people that are interested in gaming are also interested in the real world, and therefore there is this massive crossover. It's not like some of the other games that are out there. So I think our sport can only benefit from being more and more involved in it, and we want to be in the middle of it, and I guess in a way we're still leading that charge.
It's on a screen in front of people. Surely that's got to be a good thing, and I think people are starting to come round to that more and more. In terms of your own racing, I seem to see that you have acquired a racing car.
Yes, we're
following you on social media.
Yeah, well, it's only for fun. Of course, it always has been. But there's this brilliant championship in the UK called the C1 Cup, which is the small. Any Americans listening out there, it's even smaller than Mini. And
Minis aren't small anymore.
Well, no, exactly. That's the other race car that's being built, an original Mini, which is only 7 years in the building. But that's another story for another day, in case my brother's listening, who's supposed to be building it. But these C1s, it's basically like corporate karting, but 130 entries for Silverstone for a 24-hour race. All the same cars, so one make, 130 cars.
So Citroën, French manufacturer, a little front-wheel drive, 2 or 4 door hatchback with an 1100cc.
67 horsepower
Excellent.
Is the number I remember. Yes,
excellent.
Absolutely. But I did Spa 2 years ago with it in a 24-hour race, and any race in the middle of the night at 3 o'clock in the morning, going towards Eau Rouge with 20 cars in front of you with their lights on, it doesn't matter if you're in a GT3 car or in that. For someone of my level of skill, that is an amazing buzz. So, as I said to someone, I think I spent more on my accommodation and ferry and beer than I did on my seat for that. So it is proper low-level racing, and that means
follows on from the Citroën 2CV Championship, which still runs, and they have a 24-hour race as well.
They raced as part of the race at Spa, so it was like a mini Le Mans in a way, where you had these faster cars, which are bike engine 2CVs. You had the C1s in the middle, and then you had the slow 2CVs. So you had sort of GT.
So you had it was multi-class racing.
Multi-class racing, absolutely.
Citroën multi-class racing.
You should come along to Silverstone and watch, and maybe call it, John.
I got an offer to drive in the 24 hours, and I couldn't because I was out here. The guys from Mission Motorsport ran a few cars, and they're massive exponents, or proponents of it rather. And Jim Cameron asked me along to drive, and I was gutted that I couldn't make it. The Silverstone 24 is
end of April.
End of April, yeah. It happens to be an off weekend for me.
Oh,
I know that. I know that.
There are seats available.
I know that already.
But before you ask, as someone said to me when I was asking in a professional capacity about racing, they said, "There's no go without the dough." So despite our friendship, John, that is a personal one. But also, obviously we're still looking after some drivers in the real world. Obviously, probably the most famous and the guy that's raced here. The reason I was here last time, Jan Mardenborough. He's having a great career in Japan. A little bit out of sight, out of mind, because sometimes we don't cover as much as we should do the Japanese racing. But he's doing a great job. He's recently driven a Formula E car. He was at the pointy end of the test out there.
Yeah, I saw that.
We still get involved in the real stuff as well as the virtual stuff, and I'd love coming to these events.
Emma Crawley has tweeted in. That was the sage words of Darren Cox, who's with us in the broadcast booth at the moment. Emma seen far too many comments on Twitter about the red flag, saying they race in the rain at Le Mans. Yes, but the track doesn't involve banking, so steep you can't walk up. But actually, Emma, to be honest, whilst I completely agree that they are slightly uneducated comments, it's not the banking that's the problem. It's the flat bits where there's big puddles, and that's the issue. The banking is actually the least of the worries because the water runs off down there to the bottom. But you're absolutely right. These are race cars that run with virtually no ride height. There will be places around this track where if we were at racing speed, and I'm just looking over to the short piece of straight between the Western Horseshoe and into Turn 6, which goes on to the banking there, where there's quite a lot of clean-up going on with street sweepers trying to get rid of some of the puddles. They've got the air dryers out there as well. There'll be places where the bottom of the car would be the water would be so deep that the bottom of the car would have effectively act like a wakeboard, and the wheels are not on the ground. And we were hearing drivers talking about that even at safety car speeds earlier on. There's absolutely no way that we can go out, and anybody who thinks otherwise, I'm afraid you're just wrong.
And I think this is the thing normally about endurance racing, is everyone respects each other's races. And my experience, again, of being here is the big 24-hour races have all got their own character. They're all very different, whether you're in the pits, whether you're in here in the media centre, whether you're a fan. And that's the beauty of this. They don't all need to be the same, and they've all got different challenges. We talked about the weather of all those different ones. And what struck me here is the atmosphere in the paddock of the 24 hours is incredible. And yesterday, reminding myself what American racing's like, the access for the fans on the grid, it was incredible. And again, we call it Race of Champions. Look at the names of the people involved in this sport. They weren't hiding away in the motorhomes at that point. They were out on the pit lane and engaging with the fans. And long may that continue.
Darren, thanks for coming to see us. Always a pleasure. Wish you well in the 24-hour race, and let's of course get someone to give us a drive in a car that's a real competitor, and then it's every man for himself, mate.
I'd rather you wish me luck in business rather than racing.
Oh no, you'll be fine in business. I know you'll not have a problem in business.
It's the racing you're worried about.
It's the racing. I should never worry about you in racing. I remember seeing how good you were in the wet at Silverstone in that BMW that came from the back to the front and been having drive shaft problems. You started all the way at the back and ended up winning that race.
I still pinch myself that I actually am a Silverstone 24-hour winner. I don't mention it very often either.
No, I know you don't.
I was joking.
I know you were. Darren Cox, thanks for being with us. Enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you, John.